Genesis.
The stand. Oh, leave it in?
That's okay, we'll figure it out. You should be on.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Genesis Center for Spiritual Living. Please stand and sing our opening song, I'm Choosing Heaven Today.
Good morning. I'm choosing heaven today. I'm choosing heaven today. I am walking the road to heaven right now, singing I'm choosing heaven today. Heaven, yes. I'm choosing heaven today. I'm choosing heaven today. I am walking the road to heaven right now, singing I'm choosing heaven today. What's next? Joy. I'm choosing joy today. I'm choosing joy today. I am walking the road to heaven right now, singing I'm choosing joy today. Abundance, yeah. I choose abundance today. I choose abundance today. I am walking the road, abundance right now, singing I choose abundance today. How about peace? How about love? I choose love today. I'm choosing love today. I am walking the road to love right now, singing I'm choosing love today. Yeah. I'm choosing heaven today. I'm choosing heaven today. I am walking the road to heaven right now, singing I'm choosing heaven today. I am walking the road to heaven right now, singing I'm choosing heaven today.
I'm so glad that you're here and chose to spend the morning with us. This is our heaven right here and right now. The purpose of Genesis is to be a sanctuary for the soul, grounded in universal truth. My name is Cynthia Zink, and I am a spiritual practitioner here at Genesis, and I will be your host today. Our online host is Eric. If you're watching on Facebook, please say hello to everyone in the comments, share your reactions, and make a connection. And now let's read the Genesis vision and mission statements together. Our vision: Genesis empowers everyone to express their authentic nature as unconditional love. And our mission: Genesis is an inclusive spiritual community that honors vulnerability, educates, celebrates, serves, and inspires our members, our community, and our world. And now for our announcements. After service today and after our food and fellowship time, Karen Williams, a practitioner here at Genesis, is doing her monthly meditation and conversation from 12 to 1. This Thursday, Genesis will be at the Burien Farmers Market. It's July 16th from 2 to 6. We'd love a few volunteers to help with setup at noon, and let me know if you're going to be there, because we haven't gotten a word yet from Discover Burien. on exactly how that works when there's somebody in the same booth in the morning and a different person in the afternoon. So if you can do a couple of hours, that would be great, or even just one. The Burien Farmers Market is more than a place to shop. It brings neighbors together, supports local farmers and small businesses, and strengthens our community. By having a Genesis booth at the market, we can connect with new people, share who we are, and let others know they have a welcoming spiritual community where they belong. Every conversation helps us extend our vision of love, inclusion, and positive change beyond our walls. If you can lend a hand for any part of the day, please let Gideon or myself know. Thank you. And next Sunday, with Dr. Mary Ellen Johnson, please join us for Labyrinth Day on Sunday, July 19th, next Sunday. Dr. Mary Ellen will give a sermon at 10 a.m., and then at noon, if you stay after the fellowship, she will do a brief talk on Labyrinth history, and then we walk. It's a nice form of meditation. You will not want to miss this ancient practice of moving meditation and spiritual reflection. So I'm glad you are all here with us this morning. If this is your first time, we welcome you, and we'd love to connect with you. We know everyone prefers a different method of communication, so you can fill out a connection card and drop it into the offering basket later in the service, or scan the QR code on the card. This will open up a personal line of communication. We want to provide you important information to give you everything you need to learn about Genesis and what we do here. If you have any questions, please stop by the welcome table, and we would love to chat and give you a free gift. So now is our meet and greet time. You can welcome our guests. Let us welcome and greet one another. If you aren't comfortable with hugging, by the way, our guests are comfortable with hugging. Just stick out your hand, and we will shake it instead. Or namaste hands are a great choice for contactless greeting. You may stay seated if you prefer not to mingle. Holding our community in consciousness right now is our vigil practitioner, Reverend Rose Studer. So let's take a couple minutes and greet one another. So I would like to take this time to thank everyone that is in service today. Jim and Gideon, Eric and Mike, Rose, all helped get everything set up between upstairs and downstairs. Morning greeter is Joyce, and downstairs is Rose. Our projector and video is Eric. Our online host is Eric. Eric is, our person to go to. Sound tech is Jim. He's another person to go to. Joyce is taking the offering today. Vigil practitioner is me. And our musicians today are Becky and Matt. And food today is provided by the Supper Club. So we've been doing everything from the outside up until this point, and now we're going to go inside. And in order to do that, I will start with the gong, which gets us into the frequency of for me, it's a frequency of love. However it comes out for you is perfect. And then I will have a reading and then do a prayer. First, we begin with our song, Breathe and Turn Within.
I breathe and turn within. I breathe and turn within. I open up my heart to feel God's presence. I breathe and turn within. I breathe and turn within. I open up my heart and feel God's love. I breathe and turn within. I breathe and turn within. I open up my heart to feel God's presence. I breathe and turn within. I breathe and turn within. I open up my heart and feel God's love. I pray and turn within. I pray and turn within. I open up my heart and feel God's presence. I pray and turn within. I pray and turn within. I open up my heart and feel God's love. I sing and turn within. I sing and turn within. I open up my heart and feel God's presence. I sing and turn within. I sing and turn within. I open up my heart and feel God's love. I open up my heart and feel God's love. I open up my heart and feel God's love.
Our reading for today is taken from the Science of Mind magazine, which this month is written by Dr. John Waterhouse. And he started out the month, he's going through all of the principles and doing a little bit of explaining of the principles that Ernest Holmes came up with. And those principles, that's why I turned around, are on what we believe, the Declaration of Principles. So each one he's taking either the complete principle or maybe half of it. So today we are talking about stop feeling separate. The first quote is from Plotinus, from the Aeneads. The one is all things, and no one of them. It is present to all and absent from none. And Ernest Holmes says, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. In complete alignment with the core principle of oneness or non-duality, Holmes simplifies the concept by saying that there is not a here and there of divine presence. It is all the same. God is always transcendent and immanent. There simply are not two gods. This reflects our panentheistic perception of the divine. Still, when in prayer or recognition, many, even in our own movement, have not reoriented themselves to this understanding, tending instead to pray to a deity outside of themselves. For me, this was the missing piece in my understanding more than 40 years ago. When I first heard this explained to me, every time I read this, I start crying, sorry. When I first heard this explained to me by the woman who would later become my wife, the words changed everything. God was not watching me. God was in me. God was me. What took me just a little longer to embrace was that if this were true for me, then it had to be true for everyone, including anyone I judged or disliked. They are God every bit as much as I am. With that understanding, I found forgiveness and compassion much easier to express. This expanded understanding also helped me stop feeling separate from others. It opened my heart. And the affirmation for the day, I am not separate from divine presence. I am God expressing into life. And so let's take a moment to pray. Recognizing the power and the presence of the God that is the source and the supply of all that is good. God is that source that is in, around, and through everything that we see, everything we don't see, and each and every one of us sitting in the room, watching us online, or that is out in the community. God is that presence and energy within all of us. Whether we agree with what they think or if we don't, God is still within them. We all recognize God at this time and place as we understand God to be. And it is from this recognition from within that I recognize the oneness of each and every one of you listening or here in the room with me, that you are all God within. You have God within. You are God. God as me, God as you. And it is from this place of divine oneness that I know for myself when I'm in a place of separation that if I'm angry at somebody, if they've said something that hurt my feelings, that I will recognize that I have stepped away from that divine oneness that is the place of love, that is God within. And it is from this place of love then that I say with deep, deep gratitude that life is perfect just as I'm living it now, and that only as I continue in my spiritual practices, that as I grow and expand from within, that as I build my consciousness of this oneness with the divine spirit, that it is all perfect as I see it. And I release my word into the power and the action of the law, knowing that the law has already said yes. And I know that all is well and that all is good. And so it is. And so now we get our wonderful music.
This is my worship. This is my offering. In every moment, I withhold nothing. I'm learning to trust you, even when I can't see it. And even in suffering, I have to believe it. If you say it's wrong, then I'll say no. If you say release, I'm letting go. If you're working with me, I'll begin. And when you say to jump, I'm diving in. If you say be still, then I will wait. If you say to trust, I will obey. Don't wanna follow my own ways. I'm done chasing feelings. Spirit, lead me. It felt like a burden, but once I could grasp it, it took me further than I was asking. And simply to see you, it's worth it all. My life is an altar. Let your fire fall. If you say it's wrong, then I say no. If you say release, I'll let go. You're in it with me, I'll begin. If you say to jump, I'm diving in. If you say be still, then I will wait. If you say to trust, I will obey. Teach me to follow your ways. I'm done chasing feelings. Spirit, lead me. Oh, Spirit, lead me. Oh, Spirit. When all hope is gone and your word is all I've got, I have to believe you will still bring water from the rock to satisfy my thirst, to love me at my worst. Even when I don't remember, you remind me of my word. I don't trust my ways. I'm trading in my faults. I lay down everything, 'cause you're all that I want. I've landed on my knees. This is the cup you have for me. And even when it don't make sense, I'm gonna let the Spirit lead. Spirit lead. Gonna let the Spirit lead. Spirit lead me. Gonna let the Spirit lead. Spirit lead me. Gonna let the Spirit lead. Spirit lead me. If you say it's wrong, then I'll say no. If you say release, I'm letting go. If you're in it with me, I'll begin. And when you say to jump, I'm diving in. When you be still, I will wait.
If you say to trust, I will obey. You're the only truth, the life, the way. I'm done chasing feelings. Spirit, lead me. Spirit, lead me. Spirit, lead me. Spirit, lead me. Spirit, lead me.
So our guest speaker today is Linda Potter, who is a practitioner, I think, at Center for Spiritual Living Seattle. And she's been with us a couple times before when we were in our old place on 153rd. And I remember we all really enjoyed your talks. So you have to live up to that, Linda. Linda is an emeritus practitioner of 24 years. Emeritus just means she's been a practitioner for 20 years or more. As a practitioner, she particularly enjoys writing for Science of Mind magazine and teaching classes, especially those that focus on the quantum physics and spirituality connection. Her current favorites are Shortcut to a Miracle and New Thought, Quantum Physics and the Art of Manifesting. Linda is also the author of If Only God Would Give Me a Sign, and has been dubbed the Irma Bombeck of spirituality. I have to ask how many people know who Irma Bombeck was. Oh, good, most people. Oh, I can tell the younger people here. Anyway, I grew up on Irma Bombeck. So it was a joy and pleasure to welcome you here, Linda.
I'm glad to be back. This is so much fun. I'm glad to be here. My background is in theater, so I have to bring props. I couldn't just show up, so we've got a duck here, and I got another couple of ducks, because the talk today is practical spirituality, or, how to get your spiritual ducks in a row without quacking up. So of course I had to bring props to go with that. In case you're wondering where I came up with that, it was kind of inspired by my grandson, Aiden. When we used to live, we lived back in Colorado. I moved here about 10 years ago. Aiden was like about 5 years old at the time. And we lived on a lake. And every spring, the lake attracted lots and lots of ducks. We had ducks everywhere. And Mama Duck and her little baby ducks would parade across the lake in perfect order on a daily basis. But these were not just any kind of duck. These were specifically what we call diving ducks. Now, diving ducks, I had to learn this, are different than dabbling ducks, because rather than tipping forward and feeding on the surface, diving ducks feed by diving and submerging themselves completely, swimming underwater and eating fish and aquatic plants. Now, Aiden was fascinated by the way they would duck their heads into the water and then just kind of disappear, right? And he named them Little Duckers. And of course, the mother had the name of, the mother ducker. Now, why I'm sharing this fascinating fowl information, F-O-W-L and F-O-U-L, see what I did there? Is because these ducks provide an interesting spiritual perspective on how we can choose to live our lives or not. That we have that option. We can be dabblers who choose to feed spiritually on what's easily available, or living our lives on the surface, or we can dive deep to find our spiritual nourishment. And now the deep dive isn't easy. The spiritual path isn't easy, and it may confuse, and in some case even alienate family and friends who can't understand why we are choosing to be little duckers. And often we don't understand either, because it's hard work. And some of us are naturally swim better than others. And even the best swimmers are often resurface after a particularly challenging deep dive, breathing hard and feeling exhausted. And if we don't get what we want, it's easy to raise our fist to the heavens, to the mother ducker in the sky, and complain about our lives. But in spite of all of that, growth and evolution are actually happening. Living a spiritual life is work. Nobody said it wasn't. We come to church on Sunday to be inspired to tackle that work. And when we are here, we are inspired, hopefully. We have a wonderful community of people who love us. We have a talk that inspires us to be the spiritual beings that we were meant to be. But then, life happens, and that Sunday inspiration starts to fade, and by Saturday of the next week, our spiritual tanks are empty. Why? Because it's absolutely true that most of us are overcommitted, that we have more going on in our lives than we can actually comfortably manage. We may start out on Sunday with every intention of prioritizing our spiritual growth, our relationship with Spirit, but then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday happen, and we've gone back to balancing career, family, friends, personal health, well-being, and our spiritual work has taken a back seat. But we can't forget that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and when we forget that and focus on the human experience rather than the divine connection, life becomes a lot more challenging. And at the very least, we lose track of the big picture. Let me share a story with you. I love stories. I'm a theater person. I love stories. Well, I grew up in Chicago, right, and Midwest, and I was a city kid. I was 100% a city kid. And we had no other experience except streets and cars and buses and those kinds of things. So when my grandfather purchased a farm up in Wisconsin, my sisters and brothers and I were thrilled. We were going to have the country life experience, barnyard animals and pastures and swimming hole and all those wonderful fruit trees, all of those wonderful things, and tornadoes. Now, one of the things that people who don't live in the Midwest probably don't realize is that the Midwest is a hotbed for tornado activity, right? And Wisconsin, in its worst years, can rival Dorothy's Kansas. There are lots and lots of tornadoes. So inevitably, there came a point in time when we had to confront a tornado. We knew the weather was bad, and there were some tornado watches. We were aware of that. But of course, nobody had cell phones back in the 50s. And so we had to deal with just getting our news on the radio. So we knew there was going to be a tornado possibly in the area, and then it turned to a warning. And we knew it had turned to a warning because sirens were going off, and the skies were darkening. And my grandfather said, we have to get into the basement. There is imminent touchdown of a tornado in the area. So he ushered us all into the basement. But he and my Uncle Ronnie stayed out in the yard trying to put things together, battening down the hatches. And the one thing he said to Ronnie was, whatever else we do or do not get accomplished before we have to go in, we have to make sure that my brand new tractor is in the barn and safe. My shiny new tractor without even a smudge of dirt on it at this point. So they did their job. They went down in the basement. The tornado happened. It touched down about 30 yards from the house. It was noisy. It was terrifying. And then finally, the noise stopped. The skies cleared, and we came up. Well, we go into the yard, and of course, there's debris everywhere. But there's the tractor. And it looked a little worse for wear. And my grandfather, instead of going, oh my God, the tractor's fine, he looks at my uncle and he says, what the heck, Ronnie? I told you the most important thing was to put the tractor in the barn. He goes, Dad, I did. Look again. The barn is gone. The barn is gone. The tractor was still there. Getting lost in the day-to-day concerns can mean that we miss the bigger lessons. While we're managing the little stuff, the overarching truth gets ignored. We forget about maintaining our spiritual wellness. We forget about making God a priority is what tends to happen. And here was a perfect metaphor for that. My grandfather was so caught up in the issues of the tractor that he forgot to see the bigger picture. While we're clinging to the tractor, the whole barn blows away, right? When in truth, if we'd spent more time focusing on maintaining the barn in the first place, the tractor would have taken care of itself. After the tornado, if my grandfather wanted to keep that tractor safe, guess what he was going to have to do? In the long term, the very first thing he was going to have to do was rebuild that barn. In order to go on with his life, that barn was going to need to become his priority. We need to shift our focus from all the tractors in our lives to focusing on maintaining the integrity of the barn, and that may require downsizing our very human lives a little, or as I prefer to call it, right-sizing our spiritual lives, enabling our relationship with God to become the priority. And that can mean we need to release, or at least rethink, those aspects of our lives that don't support us, that are getting in the way of prioritizing our relationship with the divine. Sometimes it's people. Sometimes it's people. We all have relationships that we can have in our past or even in our present, in which, at the very least, they're unempowering. At the very worst, they can be abusive. We all have had or know of someone who's had a job that isn't quite the right fit, that is uncomfortable, it doesn't match us, and in some cases, it even becomes toxic. My daughter, who is literally only 50 years old, quit her job with Amazon because it was a toxic work environment, and she was getting paid a ton of money. And she walked away from that incredible salary because she said, my spiritual life, my emotional life, my mental health is worth more than whatever money they're willing to pay me. And so she's taking a year off to decide where she wants to go next, to find that position that does support who she is as a person and who she wants to be. And sometimes right-sizing is merely a matter of rethinking lifestyle patterns and habits that don't serve us, that aren't in our highest and best interests. It's important that we take some time to ourselves and ask where our priorities are and what it would take to move our personal spiritual growth to the top of that priority list. What parts of your life could you release or even just simplify to allow that to happen? And then you can start rebuilding that barn, that got blown away in the tornado that was the chaos of your everyday life. And of course, we have a lot of tools with which to do that. We're presented with that every time we come to church on Sunday, for example. And we've also got tools like meditation, and we have workshops and classes that we can take. But our most important tool, and we know this, our most important tool is prayer. And the good news is that prayer can happen Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and on Sunday. Prayer travels well and fits comfortably in our toolbox. And when we're trying to get our spiritual ducks in a row, the mother, father, God duck, with us following behind, there are lots of prayers that we can choose from. And obviously, we can do very specific prayers around certain issues we're having in our lives. But I have one in particular that I want to share with you today as at least an option. Onto the background on this, because it's kind of interesting. 25 years ago, or 24, I get somewhere around there, when I first became a practitioner, I hooked up with a prayer partner. Now, my prayer partner's name was Fred. Rose would know who Fred was. Rose was back with me in Colorado at the time. Anyway, Fred and I got together, and I didn't know Fred all that well, and he looks at me and he goes, well, he says, I want to be your prayer partner, and I'm very interested in hearing about your life, and I want to work with you, but I have to say something up front. He said, there's really only one prayer that I do, and if you're not comfortable with that prayer, we need to find other prayer partners. And I went, only one? There's dozens of possibilities out there, hundreds of possibilities. You choose one prayer. He said, yeah, the one prayer that I do is for clarity, divine guidance, and the courage to follow it. He says, no, I'm perfectly happy to listen to your story to help you process whatever is going on in your life. He says, but realize at the end of the day, this is what I'm going to pray for you, clarity, divine guidance, and the courage to follow it. And are you okay with that? And, I'm kind of I don't want to cause a problem. So I said, oh, yeah, I'm sure. And then I went home and went, what? Are you serious? This is all he's going to ever pray for? But 25 years later, he was right. He was absolutely right. And I came to understand that over the years doing prayer work with Fred. He's an amazing practitioner and an amazingly evolved individual. And this is at least the very base prayer for all the work that I do, and this is the base prayer for reconnecting with Spirit, for making Spirit a priority in your life. We can add additional prayers with more detailed requests as things evolve, but this works very well as a launching pad for our prayer work. So in this instance, we can pray for clarity and divine guidance about what we need to release, what we need to rearrange to prioritize our spiritual work. And in some cases, what we need to maybe just release or rethink to make that happen. And the courage to follow it. Courage is the thing. That's the key element here. Guidance means nothing if we choose not to follow it. We ask God for signs. I wrote an entire book called If Only God Would Give Me a Sign, right? And then we dismiss the signs we get because we don't like them. They're not comfortable. They scare us. After I put my book out, I was on a radio show and people were calling in with questions, and this woman literally calls me and she says, I need to know what to do. She says, I'm in a relationship that's abusive. I'm being physically abused by my partner, and I'm waiting for God to tell me what to do. And I thought, you're looking for a sign? Maybe the sign is you're being abused, And I said that as gently as I possibly could. And I said, what you need right now is not a sign. You need the courage to pay attention to the sign that's already right in front of you and to leave this relationship. We don't want to do that. The guidance is there, but the courage to follow what God is telling us to do is the piece that is sometimes very difficult. And sometimes we think we just know better, Oh, yeah, God, I get the sign you're sending me. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I understand. But you don't understand the whole thing. I know what you're saying, but you don't get the whole picture. Well, that's absolutely not true, of course. We don't know what we don't know. That's the basic tenet of quantum physics and spirituality, is we don't know what we don't know. And so we proceed on our gut feeling in so many instances when we have a source to find out what we don't know, and that's called God. Share another story. I have a friend who sends Christmas letters. We all have people who send Christmas letters. She doesn't send a Christmas letter. She sends a Christmas novella, Every single thing, she literally, by the month, every single thing that has happened in her life. And these are lovely, charming stories. But one story in particular, oh my God, this had to be 10, 15 years ago. I have never forgotten it because I just thought it was the best story I'd ever heard. She had taken her grandson, his name is Jack, he was 7 years old. She took him to great-grandma Alva's nursing home. Picked her up, and they went out to lunch. Now, Jack got to choose where they went out to lunch, and he chose Wendy's, of course. But great-grandma Alva was happy to go to Wendy's. That wasn't a problem. She brought with all sorts of photo albums so she could share with Jack about her life and wanted to share with him the things that she experienced when she was her age, when she was his age. And so they looked at pictures, and she talked about life when she was little. And she said, she even shared when they first got their first television set, which was a black and white television set. And because, they didn't have color television for a while. And she's going on and on and on. And Jack is just sitting there listening quietly, but not saying anything. And she looks at him and she goes, Jack, do you have a question maybe? Do you have anything you want to ask me? And he goes, well, I do have one. She said, well, honey, what is it? And he goes, well, I mean, when you were little, did you have color? And she interrupted him and said, no, honey, I told you we didn't get color television until much later. He goes, no, that's not what I mean. When you were little, did you have color? She wondered if his great-grandmother had been born before the invention of color. Well, it was, my friend thought this was just the dumbest thing she'd ever heard, and I thought, no, that's not dumb at all. Realized that everything he'd ever seen about her childhood, all the pictures of her as a little girl, all the things that she experienced were all in black and white. He didn't know what he didn't know, and that was that photography couldn't capture the color, not that color didn't exist. We don't know what we don't know. And prayer, daily prayer, helps us in the right direction, puts us in that right direction, because the truth is, God knows what we don't know. even though we may not. That's why we pray for clarity. That's why we start with clarity, because we need to know what we don't know. And the divine guidance is there so we can stay focused on that big picture, on co-creating with God. And then the courage to follow it, that's trusting that God does know what we don't know and is not going to let us go wrong. We need to trust that God's indeed got this. That's the key element. Staying connected with Spirit keeps us moving forward. It keeps us empowered. So back to the talk, the talk subtitle, How to Get Your Ducks in a Row Without Quacking Up. It's relatively simple. We stay close to the mother duck. One of the things that I tried to shield Aiden from when he was little with the ducks going across the pond was that as the spring went on, the ducks behind the mother duck were fewer. And the reason that was happening is that some of the ducks didn't follow the mother closely enough and they were picked off by predators. We need to stay close to the mother duck. We need to staying close to God keeps us from being picked off by the chaos of life, by the things that can go wrong, by the negative influences. I've always had, when I teach, one of the things I get all the time from people is, how is it that that sort of thing happens? How does it happen that, negative stuff takes place? When I used to teach foundations class, and you would tell people to draw what God was. And of course, they always drew rainbows and sunshine and flowers. Nobody ever drew war or death or any of those things. And that was always an issue, trying to explain that to students. And then I don't know if anybody knows Jan Levent Zant, but she's an author and a rather popular speaker. Talked to her one time. I had interviewed her for an article, and I told her about that. She goes, "Oh, I have the answer to that." She says, "What I tell people is that God is present in every situation, but God is holding the vibration up here, and we're down here. And God is inviting us to raise our vibration to a high vibration so that good continues to happen and the negative is erased." So we have an opportunity to erase that negative by following the mother duck across the pond, by following Mother, Father, God across the pond and staying close and staying connected. And that's how we evolve spiritually, and that's how we have the life that we really want to live. I want to do a prayer for you. I want to pray for clarity, divine guidance, and the courage to follow it. And then, afterwards, I brought little ducks for everybody. So I'd like you to go ahead and take a little duck if you'd like to as a reminder. So let's just go inside for a moment and take a deep breath. Oh my, just feel. I was sitting there, especially during that song, I'm sitting there in that chair. I feel the presence of God just embracing me, holding me, loving me, supporting me. God is here. God is present right here this moment. God is loving us because we are indeed divine expressions of the one, unique expressions of God. We are God. We are God in co-creation with all that there is. And it's from this place of knowing our power and knowing what is available to us that I speak my word for each and every one of us in this community, knowing that our next steps on our spiritual path are opened to us, that we have the clarity to know which is meant for us and what is not, that we open our hearts to the divine guidance that is present for us every moment of every day, that divine guidance puts us on the path, surrounds us with love, propels us forward, and that in our hearts we find the courage to follow all that God is telling us, all that God is showing us, all that God is offering us, whether it appears to be easy or difficult or something we don't want to do, we still have the faith and the trust that Spirit knows what we don't know, and that we have the courage to simply let go and let God. And I'm so grateful for for that prayer, for the awareness that clarity and divine guidance and courage are the key to all that we do in our spiritual work. And I'm so grateful to be able to share that with every person here today. And I simply release this prayer, letting go, letting God, inviting in that spiritual guidance. And we say together with gratitude and with love, and so it is. Thank you. I am light, I am light. 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 I am not mistakes that I have made, or any of the things that cause me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I left behind. I am light, I am light. 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 I am not the thing my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. Ooh, I am light, I am light. 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 I am not the color of my eyes. I am not the skin on the outside. I am not my age. I am not my race. My soul inside is all I am. Light, I am light. I am light, I am light. I am light, I am light. I am light, I am light.
Did you all know that that is a didgeridoo? You guys are also smart. I think that's why you're here. So each of you hopefully have received a yellow prayer card. On one side, it is for a prayer request that we then give to our practitioners to pray throughout the week. And on the other side is you may want to write a demonstration that you have had from past prayer requests so that we can celebrate with you. It helps us to remember the goodness that God has given us and helps us to remember the miracles in our everyday lives. So if you would take a moment to fill out the prayer request and or the demonstration. It can be something that inspired you today from the talk or from just something that's happened in your life that you would like prayer for, whether it's something that is very positive in your life and you're grateful for it, or something that you want some clarity around to see how the divine guidance can guide you in your life. If you want to just play a little music. And if you're complete with that, also you probably received an offering envelope. And this is an invitation to you to participate in circulation, to connect with our abundance and generosity that we all have in our lives. Please take a moment to offer your financial gift. This gift is tax deductible. If you are giving cash, please remember to include your name on the envelope so that we can add that amount to your end of year statement. And if you are online with us today, please go to GenesisCSL.org and use the donate button. You can use the QR code on the screen, or you can text to give by sending an amount to the number on the screen. Your contribution makes all of this possible. Remember that you are loved, you are appreciated, and that you matter. So if you're called to do so, please hold your prayer request and your offering next to your heart as we say our offering blessing together. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and I am thankful. So now Joyce will collect our offering and your prayer cards. And as we pass the basket, if you are sitting at the end of your row, please hand it back to the person in the row behind you. And now if you would join us in singing, I Give Because I Believe.
I give because I believe in love. I give because I believe in love. I give because I believe in love, and love is given to me. Love, I give because I believe in love. I give because I believe in love. I give because I believe in love, as love is given to me, as love is given to me.
It is with deep gratitude that we receive these gifts, recognizing the power of stepping into the flow of divine goodness. We allow ourselves to receive as we give, embracing the circulation of bounty for all. And so it is. Thank you for joining us today. Please join us after service for food and fellowship. I will be in the alcove back here for those who would like to pray with a spiritual practitioner. I wish each and every one of you a week filled with joy, with love, and true connection. Please stand and sing our closing song, Together We Rise.
I'm holding love in my heart, peace. I'm holding peace in my mind, joy. I'm feeling joy in my life. We are one and together we rise. Love, I'm holding love in my heart. Peace, I'm holding peace in my mind. Joy, I'm holding joy in my life. We are one and together we rise. Together we rise. Together we rise. Standing in beloved community. Together we rise. Together we rise. Through peace, love, and joy, together we rise. Together we rise. Together we rise. We are one and together we rise. Together we rise. Together we rise. Standing in beloved community. Together we rise. Together we rise. Through love, peace, and joy, together we rise. Through love, peace, and joy, together we rise.
Don't forget your little rubber ducky on the way out. They're in a wicker basket over. You want to stand and hand them out?